Okay, hi everybody, how's everyone doing? I need more energy than that, y'all, because that was so much fun. Did you guys enjoy that episode, please? How funny was that? It was so good. There's a lot that we're gonna chat about here, but I'm so glad that we got to take a look at that first episode of the series. I think it's going to be a really, really good one. Matthew and Monica, thank you for being here today. And thank you for this incredible series. I think it's going to be really, really successful. Are y'all going to watch it? So I want to talk a little bit about the series, and let's start at the beginning, because Young Love is based on the short Hair Love. Any parents out in the audience who read? I read Hair Love. I have a 2-year-old. We read Hair Love every night. She calls it my hair book. Her little puffs, her funky puff buns. So it's based off of the short, which also became a book, and now here we have the series. And I want to talk a little bit about what made you both decide to sort of expand this story. Like why was it important to tell, Angela and Stephen and Zuri's story beyond the film, beyond the short of Hair Love?
Yeah. So Hair Love was something that started back in 2017. We did the Kickstarter, got really successful, and then we ended up partnering with Sony to do an animated short film that won an Oscar in 2020.
Woo!
And if you've watched the short film or if you read the book, in the short film there wasn't a lot of dialogue, but there were a lot of things that we had set up kind of backstory-wise. Like, I'm from Chicago. The show was set on the west side of Chicago. We knew that the mom was going to be a natural hair vlogger, and that she was going to work with hair. We knew that Stephen was a music producer. So we had all these kind of different themes, and we also knew that their age. We knew that they were in their mid-20s. And it just felt like when things really started taking off, the book has sold almost a couple million copies, been on New York Times bestseller list.
These are no small feats, okay? An Oscar, a New York Times bestseller. Yeah. It's not a small deal.
No, all these amazing things have happened, and it just was one of those things where it was like, man, there seems like there's an opportunity to kind of keep the story going, and a TV show just felt like it made the most sense, and so we just really want to expand on that, and okay, what would Stephen sound like? What would he be like? And also the idea of a young millennial couple who hasn't had it figured out yet, but also has a young child that they're trying to be present in their life for, just felt like something I hadn't really seen in animation before. Typically in animated shows like Simpsons, et cetera, the parents are typically in their 40s, already established in their career. So you never really seen it from this mid-20s kind of perspective where you're still trying to achieve your dream, but also you want to be present for your kid. And so that really was the starting point. And, we really blessed that Max saw, the vision and really wanted to try to help make this thing happen. And so we did it in partnership with Sony and with Max. And you just saw the first episode. So it should be coming out soon It should be coming out soon.
Is that on?
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Let me also add that we have a hair care line for children in partnership with Dove. I don't know if anyone was at the Dove Lounge today, but Matthew's an ambassador for the Crown Act with them, so they also came to the table. It started with, the project started as a Kickstarter campaign in 2017, and Dove was the first brand to come to the table. We went to brands and they said no, but Dove actually came to us. Yeah. So, and you can find the hair care product at Walmart, Target, and CVS now.
Monica, I love that you mentioned that a little bit, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but can you talk a bit about the journey? And you were saying that a lot of times folks think that you've got to go to studios to pick this up, but you guys started with a Kickstarter. It's kind of a grassroots, journey. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, in 2016, so let me back up a little bit. I've been working with Matthew. Not only am I an executive producer on the project, but I've worked as his manager since 2008. And met him on the set of a music video for a label I was working with, Hidden Beach Recordings at the time. and he was working directing a music video and trying to launch his career as a director. When we connected, we shot probably over 30 videos now, a web series, a couple of short films, and a few features. And I ended up producing because there was no one else to produce, and we didn't have the money to really hire at least enough people. So that's how I developed my chops, actually. So in 2016, I'll fast forward, he came to me in the fall and said, I remember like it was yesterday, he called and he said, "Mon, I got an idea. If we do it right, we can win an Academy Award." He told me the idea. My first thought was, that's a children's book. And then we joked about it, and we laughed because we're like, oh, yeah. He said, I can draw the stick figures, and I said, I can put a couple of words in, and I'll fill it in with color, with crayons. And then, honestly, the next thing we know, we launched the Kickstarter, and Random House called saying, we think this is a book, and are you guys interested? And then we had a little bit of a bidding war for the book, and we both, it's funny because when Random House, or Coquillas, which is one of the sub-publisher of Random House, they weren't the highest bidder, but we felt they were the best partner. So we went with them. I remember an agent telling us, you go with the highest offer. I'm like, no, we go with the best partner who can take us the furthest and who believed in it over the long haul. So, that's sort of how it started. And launched the Kickstarter, and Matthew can, continue the story, because we definitely didn't know animation, but what we do know, what we care deeply about are great stories, whether it's in music videos, whether it's in live action shorts, whether it's in, long form films, or whether it's in animation. What we try to do is tell great Black and meaningful stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're telling a great one with this one. We chatted about this a little bit earlier. When I was watching the series, it felt like this combination of Insecure and the Boondocks for me, like a family-friendly Boondocks, right? Like I was like, and part of it was also that I felt so seen. It felt so authentic. For me, as a young parent, I'm oftentimes having these conversations with my own husband of like, hey, can you make it to pick her up for school at this time? Or I've got to run to this. I'm here right now, my husband's home with my 2-year-old daughter. So that managing family and personal and professional, but also that really authentic portrayal of Black culture. And it just felt very reminiscent of, I would watch Insecure sometimes and be like, wow, this is really my life. Can you talk a little bit about some of the projects that inspired you, or even some of the research that you did as you brought this project to life?
With animation, it takes so long, so sometimes it's hard to, we say, chase the trends sometimes, right? So like, I'm obviously very active on social media, and it really just came back to just things that are relatable, stories that we all felt that were relatable and authentic. Hair Love really was birthed because we wanted to see that representation with like Black hair, and it was like, how do we, and also just like young girls to be able to have characters that they could see themselves in, because we know cartoons often are the first things that young people see, right? And if they don't have characters that look like them, could really do a number on their self-confidence. So just with that, it was just very much about like what's relatable. Like we all can attest to being, in your 20s, late teens, in college, and like just struggling and like, damn, like I don't even know where I'm gonna get my next meal from, but also having these big dreams that you wanted to work towards. And obviously now a lot of young folks, a fair amount have, young children too. And it was just bringing this whole family dynamic together, creating something that the entire family could watch together, see themselves in. Like, Zuri, we feel like, is really the heart of the story, and she's just so funny and is so confident and has so much energy. And we wanted young people to really be able to relate to her, but also adults to like be able to see themselves in her, and also like the scenarios that she's talking about. We've all been there too, and things that wouldn't turn off adults when Zuri was on, and things that kids would still be engaged when they saw the parents on too.
Yeah, absolutely. Monica, you talked earlier about how you drew from some of your personal experiences from your family when it really came to just those intentional decisions to portray a really authentic Black family. Can you talk about that a bit?
Right. So I'm a native. I mean, obviously the industry is in LA. I'm a native of LA. So most of my family and friends are in LA. And years ago, what I noticed is that a lot of people in Hollywood, sort of all of their friends work in Hollywood. When they migrate to LA, all of their friends are in Hollywood, and they're not really as connected, definitely as I am, to my family, and all my friends are from elementary and junior high and high school like I am. So there's oftentimes a bubble that's created and a disconnect, even though they're Black. Like us. So I was very intentional and thoughtful through each step of the way with every script of thinking about going back to the hood, back to the family experiences with the grandparents, always keeping that in the back of their mind and checking with that, just sort of a checklist. Does this make sense, or does this make sense? Because it makes sense. It's easy to get disconnected from those real authentic stories, because it just happens. It can happen with money oftentimes. It can happen just by living in Los Angeles, if with that new set of friends, I call it. So I really just, I'm not from Chicago. This story, Matthew brought a lot of authenticity to the experiences in Chicago. And then the whole team did. Let me say, I'm not the only one. I mean, just the two of us, but just bringing the authenticity around those conversations and making sure that they hit a certain way and that they feel like I think I was talking about, like, sort of language that people use that's sort of like PC culture, which is fine, but let's be real, oftentimes when you separate from Hollywood and politics, those Black folks aren't having conversations in the same exact way. Yeah. The language is very different. So it's like, would they really say that? Yeah. Or would they really do it like that? So just, being thoughtful and, about that, and not being disrespectful either, so.
Right, yeah. I do think those choices really show throughout the series. And Matthew, you touched on this a little bit, but I want to get deeper here because I feel like this is very interesting. But the choice of animation as a medium to tell these stories and to tell this story, and the intentionality, the decisions behind how you portray hair or skin color, or we see so many different styles, whether it's like braids with beads or puffs or locks and I read about
weave
how
in there too now. Don't get Star has a red weave.
Yeah, we see. Yeah, you saw the weave braids. You see everything, right? And I read a bit, Matthew, about you talking about how important it was to really get that animation right, and we talked about how much time you all spent in really getting, the diversity in skin color, within Black folks. And can you talk about just that choice, first of all, as animation as the medium, and the impact that has, like, showing Black families, and then the intentionality behind, really the detailed specifics that you guys spent a lot of time on?
Got you. Can you ask that question again? I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Animation was the thing. So we always joke that if Hair Love was live action, it probably wouldn't even have gotten to a film festival, let alone win an Oscar, just because there's just something about the medium of animation where you could take, a simple story, you could take a magical story. Only in animation can you really get emotionally connected to an inanimate object or an animal that's talking, right? So imagine what that can do for people of color. You know what I mean? We all seen probably Encanto and, Coco and Princess and the Frog, just all these kind of classic movies, and there's just something about the medium of animation that kind of strips away kind of a lot of prejudices that we may have kind of in the real world, and really just allows you to be even more enveloped with the medium of storytelling. Oftentimes animation takes 2-3 years longer to make than a regular live action story, and a lot of times animation is very iterative. So what I mean by that is to get to the final product that you see here is we storyboard kind of every scene, and then you watch it before you do any of the full animation. And you watch it and you're like, okay, what's working, what's not working? And then you go back and you re-storyboard everything, and then, okay, it's getting a little better, let's keep doing it. And so you're essentially making the movie 3, 4, 5, 6 times, or a TV show 10 different times, and being able to kind of pick out things that are working and things that aren't. And that's why I always feel a lot of times animation stories just have the best filmmaking and storytelling, because you could tell they took a lot of time to make sure to work out a lot of the kinks. And yeah, it's just, I think it's way more universal. Like, we told a story with Hair Love that was very like culturally specific. You know, we dealing with black hair, but the themes were universal. You know, we're talking about love and just like unconditional love. What would you do for your child if they asked you to do something that you didn't know how to do? So, you know, I think in animation, also in live action, if you're being very specific, a lot of times the universal themes will really shine through. So I always tell people, don't be scared of being a black filmmaker. Like, that's cool. Like, you know, you don't have to be trying to hit the mainstream thing on the head. You know, I know filmmakers that were trying to like, man, I want to, you know, do these like super dramatic projects and things that were kind of inauthentic to them, but they thought that it would get them awards love. And for us, we told a very simple story that resonated and something that we thought was relatable. And, you know, we were able to do really good and cool things with it. So that's the advice I would give out there. It's just like, you know, animation is great. You don't necessarily have to know how to animate yourself. You can find a team. Like, we had Peter Ramsey, who did Into the Spider-Verse, one of the directors, and Frank Abney, who was an animator for Pixar, that came on board. And it's just like all about building a team. And then Monica can probably give you a little bit more about the specifics of the hair and the skin tones and things.
Well, I was gonna say about the team too, is that there aren't a lot of black folks in animation, right? And as you're comprising this team, you obviously had black folks who were involved with the project, but you guys told me earlier that a large portion of your team was not black. And Monica, you know, I would love for you to expand on that.
I'd say, quote unquote, above the line we're black, but sort of below they were white. Let me just be real.
And so when she says
So-
above the line,
yeah.
she means like the creators, a lot of the
Right.
executive producers. So a lot of the decision makers, like, we really made sure that we had a lot of black EPs and consultants and things.
Which,
that
round of
just-
applause for that. A lot of
Yeah,
black
yeah,
EPs, and that's really,
the,
really
the
important.
decision makers.
Absolutely.
It's just, look, there aren't a lot of us in animation who actually animate, who actually storyboard, who, you know, do layout, who do expression sheets, who do all those things. So, I mean, we did our best, but that's just, it's where we landed until we can develop the media more, like, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really hard. So a lot of our job was not just, oh, let's sort of give them direction and instruction in animating, but teaching them about the culture.
Right.
You know, and giving them references, and they'd have to do them at night. And I mean, it was just, that was probably a very difficult thing, is teaching sort of black culture, how you move, what your swag like, and understanding expressions. We spent an awful lot of time on hands, just hands itself. Most of the animators are used to 3 fingers, like the Flintstones, like things like that, and then just expressions. Like, you know, I was looking at it. I haven't seen it this is my first time with an audience, and I can say that I'm really proud of what we did. But remember, this is the first time I sat in an audience and watched it. But every single time up until this day, I was looking at it like a critic trying to fix it. So this is time I can sit back and relax and say, well, there's nothing I can do now, and I better enjoy it. And that's a big deal. You know, when you take 3 years on a series. So, and I see all the time and attention and the pushing and pushing and pushing for every expression to be right. And, you know, and I'd have them sit like this, have them sit like, you know, like a guy would sit, like little things, because it's easy to sit like this and just draw a straight line.
Yeah.
And not open the legs like a lot of guys that I know sit like, you know. So little details like that, or where you go. Well, it's those little things, you know, that really make a difference and make it authentic, that a lot of, you may not even think about, but I do, because I'm about those details.
And I think I don't know about you guys, but I think you feel it when you watch it, right? Like, when you see it, it feels very familiar. It feels very authentic. It doesn't feel like, you know, they're trying too hard. It really feels like, I mean, when I was watching it, it's like I felt like I was watching my friends and family.
Well, the most difficult thing about animation, unlike live action filmmaking, you could like go into an auditorium like this and just shoot what's there, you know, like get some people in there and shoot it. With animation, you're literally building every single thing from scratch. The couch, why is it red? Like the chairs, like, you know, like every piece of thing that you saw in there, somebody had to like literally sit there and give multiple picture references for. Somebody had to draw it, you have to approve it. So like, that's literally every piece of thing. A car, a tire, a window, you know, like everything had to be created from scratch essentially. And I think that's the thing that can be a little scary about animation, but also I think when it just hits on a different level. You know what I mean? You can really see like just the details and authenticity, you know, just the hairstyles alone. Like, you know, we probably had, you know, 50, 60 different hairstyles just featured in that one episode. You know, these are the attention to detail that we try to put in every episode.
Right. Especially being up in a hair salon, you've got to have a lot of hair.
Okay.
I want to talk a bit about, as we're on the topic of authenticity. I think it's really, really important, and it's amazing that you all show Stephen and Angela really on the come up, right? Like they are, you're not portraying sort of this like Huxtable-esque family. It's like, their car's a little beat up, they're talking about paying their bills, Angela's father is turning off the AC because that's for rent-paying customers, rent-paying tenants. So I love that you really see them really, managing personal and professional, managing their love for each other, their love for their daughter, and it's not, it's not coming to them easily.
Yeah.
Can you talk about just the choice to really show this couple at that stage in their lives?
Yeah, those are just always been the stories that relate to me, like I think, it's great that we have the aspirational stuff out there, things where people are living large and got the best cars and all that, but also I think, a vast majority of America, that just isn't their experience. And so to, really focus on the come up and just like, I don't even know if they are in a class, right? They're like, aspirational low class, basically. It's just real. When you're in your mid-20s and you got these big dreams and goals, like it's hard, and sometimes you really get challenged with whether or not you're going to continue on just because how hard it could be. Like the big theme for our show is one step forward, two steps back, because that's literally how I felt like trying to come up as a filmmaker. You finally get that check for that job you did, 3 months ago, and now your car breaks down. It's like, damn, now I gotta put that money I was going, I'd already spent that money in my mind. Now I gotta get the car fixed. So it's just like that relatable experience of being like, in your 20s and not knowing where the next check was gonna come from. But also we thought it was important to include the grandparents and the fact that they do actually have a place to land, and that just multi-generational looking out for each other, and that just being communal, like, a lot of times that's what it's like, especially if you're an artist, you're not really getting that big money when you first start off, and sometimes you have to like lean back on family to try to get that support so that you can eventually reach that goal. For me, it took damn near 10 years in this business to really like do something that I was able to like actually say that I could survive off of being a filmmaker. And I think it's like that for a lot of people. So, just trying to be relatable, and I think there's a lot of comedy in the struggle too, like having the raggedy car and, want to take a girl out, like, it's just all real.
Monica, you want to add anything to that?
I was just gonna say, like, that was a really important thing to Matthew that we actually got pushback on. People, it feels like, I don't know how you feel about this, Matthew, but not only did people push back, but it was easy to make the leap and just make them sort of the middle class family where everything is comfortable and settled. But Matthew was very adamant about making sure that, like, the struggle mode is not just like this thing you in episode 1 and then episode 2 now we're smooth sailing.
Right.
So,
Like he sold the beat and got the
Right.
wad of cash.
Exactly.
He walked out with
Yeah.
with the stack of cash, and they're good now. Like they're moving on up. They're the Jeffersons, right? That's really so.
I guess it's easy for people to think that, or I'm not sure.
Right.
But,
But how do you navigate that pushback? Like how did you navigate that pushback of like this is the way you want to tell this story, but.
Yeah, I think it's, in any medium of the arts, for the most part, save for probably like being a painter and a few other things, like it's a team sport. So being a creator of something or a director, you have to know how to collaborate, know that good ideas can come from anywhere, but also you have to be clear in your vision. And basically every decision is kind of with that in mind. So there's some things you say no to. There's some things you're like, oh shoot, I wasn't even thinking about that. Let's put that in. But I think it's just if you think like that, you're open to happy accidents, but also like you have to be very clear in your vision because people will steer you. You look up and you didn't steer it in a totally different direction if you just say yes to everything or let people kind of pull it in the directions that they wanted to and not where you see it.
Right, absolutely. I want to leave some time for questions from the audience, but I do want to talk about the cast because it's an incredible cast. Issa Rae, Loretta Devine. That Kid Cudi joke is so funny because it's Kid Cudi. There's Shirley Ralph is also voices one of the characters. Hair Love, the short, did not the characters. You're not hearing them speak, and so I'd love for you to talk a bit about your choices of like. How did you get to the point of these were the right people to voice these characters?
It really was just like, we wanted the people that we casted to kind of be somewhat representative of the characters that they were playing. That way it's like a lot easier to deep into your, go into your toolkit and kind of be able to play these different variety of emotions that you have to play. So, Kid Cudi, he's from the Midwest. Like the show really kind of speaks to those like Midwestern values of like just pulling your, trying to figure things out, but also just like the relatability of it. And so he's from Cleveland. He has a 10-year-old daughter. So we knew he would be able to play the dad and the family stuff right. And he's also, very emotional with his music and things, right? Like he's probably one of the earliest rappers that kind of dug deep into mental health and all these different things. And so that we knew these were themes that we're going to explore in the show. And so he, to me, was always like my first choice. Issa, obviously, like awkward black girl. We've all seen her come up. She's just got such a distinct and incredible voice. And she actually voiced Angela, part of the voiceover in the short film. So it was great to get her back. And then, Loretta Devine, I mean, come on, like legend. Like, even if you didn't know who she was, like you heard that first line, you're like,
I
that's
just
Loretta.
feel like collard greens, candy yams, just a little something, nothing, with that.
She's like just everything. And, to get her in the mix on this was great. And then Harry Lennox as well, who's played all these iconic roles, dad, father in Love and Basketball, et cetera. And also, Russell's a little tight, right? Like he's tight with that money, so we needed somebody that kind of represented that. And you'll see, like with both of them, it's a show that's not just focused on our core three family members. Like we're gonna really get deep with all our characters. Like I think having that representation, with the older generation was really dope. Important for us as well to kind of see not only just how they're impacting the kids, but also seeing them go on their own journey. So that'll be coming up a lot more later in the season as well. And then, Tamar Braxton, voice and star, another distinct voice. And then let's talk about Zuri. Come on now, shout out to Zuri, right? So we were kind of tasked with this choice, right? We could cast an adult and, we know that their voice probably wouldn't change as much, or try to find like a kid. And I'll let Monica kind of expand on why we chose her a little bit more too. But we really thought it was important to get a young child that really organically represented this energy. Zuri is very confident. She loves her hair. She just has this infectious personality. And we found this really amazing young girl named Brooke Monroe Conway, who, I think is honestly the best part of the show. Just how much she's like so many kids that we know. Like, are you been here before? Like, you talking a little too
black
familiar.
folks love saying that baby's been here before.
Right. You sound a little too familiar. And I'll let Monica kind of talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, Monica, because you said you guys found her outside of LA.
Right, we did. We were auditioning kids in LA, and what we found is that most of them had those Disney kind of sounding voices, if you know what I mean. It's like, this isn't authentic, like every single one of them. So we were very clear that we would have to go wide. And we found her in Baltimore. Shout out to Baltimore.
Any Baltimore folks
DMV,
in the
DMV.
You gotta. I've heard you have to drop the T, right?
And the great thing about animation is you don't have to live in the city. We've never met her in person. We've only seen her in Zooms or in the sessions.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really exciting to have her. Her and her parents are excited, and she was amazing. And the other thing that's exciting about Brooke is that she's the only child in the entire series. Everyone else is cast. The voice actors are adults. So even her friend group, so what it does, it stands out. Like her voice, it lifts above the others, even the children. So yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm scared though.
What?
Her voice may change. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
But that's also, I think going back to that authenticity, that is a real part of childhood. That is definitely a real part of just growing up, right?
Yeah.
Your voice changes.
Yeah, and we also got some voice animation legends too. Deborah Wilson, y'all remember her from Mad TV and she probably voiced so many things you probably aren't even familiar with. We got her and Phil Lamar are voicing characters too. So just voiceover legends, man. We're really fortunate.
I was gonna say, I think Deborah, she's playing about 5 or 6 roles, from children to adults to the Miss Mabel. She's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a beast.
Yeah.
That is awesome. One last question before we get to the audience. What do you all think that viewers will be surprised by?
Honestly, that's a hard question just because you'd have to know the expectation to know what they would be surprised by. But, I think I'm just happy for them to see it. This has been probably one of the craziest journeys to go from a Kickstarter to a short to a book to a hair product and now a series. It's pretty unprecedented. So I hope people just still love the characters and they showed a lot of love. We really tried to put a lot of heart into the story. That's probably my biggest thing. I love just things that make you feel something, but also are funny. And hope y'all dig it. We did it with a lot of love.
Monica, what about you? Anything?
I think I would say because there's a children's book and it's short, maybe people will be surprised that it's actually for all ages and for families. So, watch it with your children, watch it with the grandparents, watch it with the nieces and nephews. This is definitely a family affair.
Yeah.
Definitely, absolutely. I just want to give you all a round of applause because it's just such a phenomenal series, and a huge shout out to Max for just providing a platform to tell these diverse stories. But do we have enough time for questions? Can somebody?
And it's coming this fall. So
Yes.
Sooner than you think.
Yes. Okay, if there are any questions, I think we can get a mic. We've got one right here. We've got a mic coming.
I see you.
Thank you. Hi. Hey. My name is Janae, and I had a question about the show's setting, because I feel like this is a show that very easily could have taken place in New York or Atlanta, and it's a very intentional love letter to Chicago from the opening scene. So I just wanted to ask, what made you choose Chicago as the setting for Young Love?
I guess outside from me being from there, I think when I watch a lot of TV, you see a lot of cities that get featured, like, New York is featured in a lot of things. LA is also, and, outside of really like South Side and the Chi, Chicago doesn't really have that same level of representation. And, I just thought it would be a nice change of pace, but also, just like that Midwestern thing, it all fits into just like our goal of things being relatable and also like just, showing that come up. Chicago, I think, really represents just one of those hardworking kind of Midwestern cities where, like nothing is promised, everything is earned, and, they just figure it out day to day. And that's really the main reason.
I think we had a question in the back at first.
We're gonna get to you.
We'll get there.
I don't know. Oh, it is, okay. Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm a filmmaker here, and I had my short Let Her Eat Cake playing earlier. I was curious what the process was like for the writer's room, because I noticed there was like multiple writers credited.
Yeah.
And obviously going from a solo short film to a book to like having a more creative input from more people. I guess like how did that work? And also translating it to like multiple series. Like, do you write all of them first and then it all gets animated? I was just curious about that process.
Ooh, yeah. The writer's room was a new experience for me. I've definitely been a bit of a solo act in terms of just like having to just, figure out new ideas and just like, do them and make them happen. And so, writer's room was cool in that like, you're getting a lot of different voices and different people's experiences. They're able to kind of bring it to the show. And we definitely try to have a diversity and just like experiences. And, so things felt authentic. Like, obviously I can't necessarily, write for Issa authentically, right? I kind of have my idea of what her experiences would be like. So, we definitely relied on our women writers in the room too, just to kind of just make sure things were hitting that right note and not coming from that male gaze. But yeah, it was cool, like you really just, you don't have to like shoulder all the work necessarily, definitely all the responsibility. But you definitely, it's just, if you have the right mix of people, it can really be additive just because like everybody's able to bring their experience to the table. I know what it was like being a millennial back in the day, but I don't know what it's like to be 25 right now. So, we had writers that were young and kind of speak to those things authentically as well.
Well, I got kicked out of. I'm not a writer, but I used to pop in and I got kicked out. They were like, it's like having the supervisor in. So they were like, stay away. I'm like, okay. But I'll say this to answer your question. This is the only episode with 4 writer credits. Most of them have 1 and at max 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the pilot was really hard to crack just in that it literally could have went a lot of different ways. It could have been a kid's show, like could have been like, you know, Craig of the Creek type of vibe. You know, it could have been more adult, like straight up a Boondock thing. We could just follow Steven and, you know, his music producing thing. But, you know, we really wanted to be a family thing, and so we definitely had to figure that out.
I think this is on.
There you go.
Hey, Matthew and team,
Hey.
thank you so much for all of the work that you've done. The story is beautiful. My family and I were part of the millions or thousands of folks who participated in the Kickstart program.
Amazing. Oh.
And so my question to you, Matthew, I know before the project you were young. I don't think you were married at the time.
Not yet.
But now you're married.
Yeah.
Beautiful daughter,
Oh,
congratulations.
thank you, thank you.
So I see that how you've manifest this experience,
Yeah.
right, and this reality for you. So can you talk a little bit, and I don't know if this is personal, but if you can talk about now that you're a father of a beautiful daughter, how you think that that will kind of come in your experience, will come into your storytelling, specifically with this series or
Yeah.
feature.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's hard to say, you know, I'm still kind of new at it. You know, my daughter Theory, she just turned 10 months yesterday. So not quite a year yet, but coming up. Thank you. And yeah, you know, I don't know. Like for me, I think as a storyteller, I always believed in the idea of being able to be empathetic to other people's experiences and things that I may not have even had the opportunity to experience yet. So, you know, when we created Hair Love, I was not yet a father, but I knew that eventually one day, hopefully I would be. And, you know, I wanted something that she could see herself in and relate to. And yeah, it's just, you know, hopefully great things come from it. You know, I'm just really excited. You know, she's really dope. And yeah, it's like, we'll see.
Thanks. Thank you so much for Young Love. I was here when you were first here for the last fall.
Yeah.
And
My third time being in the fest.
all right. And someone asked you, how did you get all these people in this film?
Yeah.
As a new director
Yeah.
or whatever, how did you get all of these people? And your response was, I just asked them. and they were willing, and it was beautiful because there were so many people that we recognized
Yeah.
in the film.
Yeah.
I want to know how you got Issa to do. I mean, she's on her Instagram saying, "Listen, if you have a question, the answer's no." And here she is, a major character in Young Love. How did you get Issa to do this?
She would have to answer that fully, but I think I know. So here's the thing. I feel like me and Issa's journey are somewhat similar in that we both have tried to go the traditional route, you know, pitch to studios, try to figure it out that way. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. And then we had to like basically figure it out ourselves. You know, I've definitely been a fan of Issa on her journey. You know, she said that she's been a fan of mine as well. And I think it's just one of those things where I'll share this quote. So, you know, it's attributed to Chris Rock, but it may be to somebody else. But, you know, back when he was a young comedian, he always said that, you know, his car would break down because he was on the come up. And he said every time that he would hold his thumb out, nobody would stop to help him push his car, get it off the road. But every time he just got behind his car and he pushed it, people would always help him. And I think that's similar to what it's like of being a young creative. You know, you could ask people, say, hey, help me. But once you actually start doing it and are actually putting action into the words, you know, people will try to help you out. And I think that similar to both of our journeys, you know, you know, we support each other. And, you know, I'm so blessed that she was able to do it.
That's great. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Monica, you talked a little bit earlier about just reaching out to friends and like the people that you know, as you guys were kind of figuring this out, because neither of you had that animation background, that just like calling folks up and just being like, you know, I want you to produce or I want you to be involved with this. Like, you know, we talked a bit about networking across the aisle and how important that was as you all were bringing these projects together. Can you share a little bit about that part of the journey?
I mean, look, Matthew and I have been doing that since, what, 2008?
Yep.
So we had a music video, and the budget maybe $1,000, we would figure it out. We would use my condo, use my car, use my brother and his wife's house. Like, we do whatever it takes, really. I think we've always done that. So with this project, when Matthew had the idea, I knew one person. Well, I knew Peter Ramsey, kind of, because I went to grade school with his brother, his younger brother. But I hadn't seen him since then. And I knew Karen Tolliver, just been outside of the industry, and we brought her in, who happened to be at Sony. And she was reluctant. Like, she wanted to be involved, and I remember asking me very clearly, what do you want me to do? And I didn't know, but I just said, produce, And she was like, oh, I can't do that, and this is a micro budget, and I'm used to it. She said $1 million a minute, films. That's all she had ever done in her whole career.
Wow.
But we got her.
We definitely didn't have no million, million a
So
minute.
sometimes it's about reaching out to people. Like, I never thought we'd be working on anything together, and we're still partnering on projects to this day. So it's just using your resources and your network, like Matthew said about Issa. I happen to have gone to high school, well, elementary through high school with Issa Rae's lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a big thing too is like, it feels easy to be the person that's like, look, let me go to Barry Jenkins, let me go to Ryan Coogler, like, help me. And like, when I started as a production assistant on Girlfriends last season, and like Lena Waithe was like a writer's PA, Kenya Barris was like a junior writer, Prentice Penny was like a junior writer, you know what I mean? So it's like, but as you build in this industry and you grow, people end up kind of growing with you, and like people that started as interns are now executives. People that started as camera operators are now directors of photography. So, as you stay in this business, like, people will grow with you, and you'll be like, damn, like, look at us, we did it.
I think we got time for a couple more. Over here.
My name is Yvette Ross.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hold on just a
We
second.
kinda
Just
hear
wanna
her
make sure.
still,
Yeah.
She projects.
I know. We still can hear you.
Oh, you could just say it.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go.
it came
There we
on,
go.
it came on.
Okay.
We heard you pretty good.
Hear you.
My name is Yvette Ross, also a filmmaker, during the teacher documentary that I filmed during the pandemic. So I thought it was interesting, because I am an educator, that you added that piece about the teachers, and then I can't even remember the term that you used, but I was going to ask, why did you add that piece in there, or if it was for the comical relief of what teachers are going through.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it. So one of the ideas. So when I did my first movie last fall, it was very relatable in that it was kind of loosely based on my life, but also I've had to do like the what do you call it? The when you have to like go to schools and talk, and like the career day. So I've had to do that before, and like, we felt like we've seen that trope a lot, and we wanted to try to pivot it, and like, I think this idea of like a school auction where they were trying to just help to benefit the teachers, like the book has really been, honestly, I feel like schools and teachers have really been the engine, behind just like the book's success, like always seeing, teachers kind of reading it in classrooms and kind of trying to help people teach about just other people and their differences. And so, just always want to show love to the teachers, man. Like, definitely don't get the pay or the credit that they deserve, but anytime we can like, showcase them and show them some love, and obviously acknowledge how hard it is, sometimes just being able to continue to do it when the rewards aren't necessarily there in the immediacy, but obviously long term you see them. That was really important for us.
Shout out to the educators.
Yeah.
Joe Briggs on this side.
What's up, Joe?
What's up, Matthew? Having been on this journey with you and watch you grow through it, you being a father, you being a person who's now done so many amazing things, what do you have to other athletes who were like you, trying to figure out what their next career transition was going to be, me being a former football player, asking you that question?
Yeah, so I'm a former athlete as well. I think sometimes when you're an athlete and you make it to the higher level, there's a bit of like not wanting to start from scratch. I see a lot of guys that go into coaching or, try to become analysts and things like that. There's just so many jobs that you can do like that, I think. But also growing up, you had interests outside of being an athlete, right? So you know, for me, I always loved film. I majored in radio, TV, broadcast at the University of Akron. Shout out to Amber over here, one of my classmates in the audience. And, you know, I think the thing that you love before you became an athlete, those are things that you can look into in your next chapter. So, you know, that's always the thing I tell people, like, you definitely, and sports is one of the rare things where you retire and you're like in your 20s or 30s, you know, like you have a lot of life left to live after that. So you got to have that plan B, and it can definitely become your plan A.
We have time for one more. There was a question.
He's a former athlete, right? I feel like.
Yeah.
Are you? Okay. You guys make the best collaborators.
Yeah, Monica,
I just have to say that.
What were the qualities that you said earlier that you feel like athletes have?
I'll just say Matthew kicked it off for me, but I'm going to always say this to the day I die. You guys are the best collaborators, elite athletes, that is. One, you guys have an arrogance and audacity to think you can do anything. Matthew called me saying, we're going to win an Oscar, and I just said, okay. That's first thing. The second thing is you guys know how to work with a team, and you understand your role and everyone else's role, and it takes a team to make it work. And the third thing is you guys are very coachable. And you know, I really mean that. That's like some of the best people I work with are elite or former athletes, and elite meaning high school or college and above, and even high school. So, you know, you'll be all right.
Okay, I think we got time for one more.
Okay. Matt Henry Payton. Of course, Amber's dad.
All good. Shout out to University of Akron.
Okay, all right. But real quick, with the episodes.
Uh-oh. Might have hit the button. It's a good one, y'all. I feel it. Okay.
With the episodes that are coming, is there a lot of, thank you. Are there a lot of other actors that will be added in, their voices added in or whatever? Have you guys thought about that down the road?
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely a lot of people that haven't been announced yet that, you know, can look forward to checking out. I mean, yeah, I think Shirley Ralph was already mentioned. You know, she's you know, a character that's in there, and then Cassandra Freeman, who plays Aunt Viv on the Bel Air reboot. Yeah, we're really blessed. You know, like not a lot of black animated projects out there, and animation is, from an actor's perspective, you can do it. Literally, I think Loretta, who was it? One of the actors was like literally recording in their closet in their bedroom, like. Like you can really do it from anywhere, and yeah, it's just been really great.
And also, I want to shout out the voice actors whose names aren't like known in popular media. Sure. The majority of them are played by people who do voiceover exclusively for a living. Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Huge round of applause for Matthew and Monica. And as Matthew mentioned, Young Love will be out in the fall of this year, so look out for it. It will be on Max. Again, another shout out to Max for bringing diverse stories like this to our screens. And everybody go check that out. And thank you both for being such incredible storytellers. Go ahead, Matt.
Check. All right, one last thing. So we have a baby board book. It's called Hair Love ABCs. It's dropping in like 3 weeks, August 29th. So we all have seen those baby board books. A is for apple, B is for boy, C is for cat, etc. This one is very specific to Black life. So A is for afro, B is for braids, N is for natural, L is for locks. So it comes out August 29th. Check it out if you can.
Everybody's going to buy that. Another New York Times bestseller. You need that in your library. Thank you so much. Thank you for the stories that you tell. And again, across the board, whether it's music videos or baby board books or series like this, you think you can find something for the whole family. So y'all watch Young Love when it comes out in the fall. Thank you.